Beautiful boxing fans, Eddy Reynoso, the long-time trainer of Saul Canelo Alvarez, just came out and the man broke down Terence Crawford's fighting style and he broke down his game plan heading into September 13. Let me read you, ladies and gentlemen, what Eddy Reynoso said, and let's break down this situation. So Eddy Reynoso came out yesterday and the man said this: Crawford, at 38 years old, every fight he's won, what he's accomplished, he cannot switch from one fight to another. He's going to go out to do what has allowed him to win all his championships. He is a left-handed fighter who usually changes himself from the right to try to be winning at his distance, which is the best virtue he has, to be winning counter blocks, counterattacks he means. As soon as he begins to dominate his rivals, he begins to go for them. That's the strategy Crawford has always used with all of his opponents. We know how to beat leftist fighters, and we're gonna do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't disagree with Eddy Reynoso is saying, but one thing this man isn't truly realizing, and let me tell you about it, ladies and gentlemen. When he says that Terence Crawford is a left-handed fighter, that is not completely true, and let me tell you why. Now, Crawford, if you actually think about it, yes, the man is a switch hitter, but the man, when he wants to discipline you, when he's in a high-pressure situation, when he's looking to gain respect, he doesn't go orthodox, he goes southpaw. But what Eddy Reynoso forgot to say is this, ladies and gentlemen. Terence Crawford is far from your usual southpaw, and let me tell you why. You know, if you think about it, most southpaws, if not all of them, their power hand is their backhand, the left hand. And he said Crawford is a left-handed fighter. But no, ladies and gentlemen, that couldn't be true. No way, and let me tell you why. Terence Crawford's power hand is not his left hand, it's actually his right hand. And that is something that makes Terence Crawford extremely special. When he is in the southpaw stance, if you actually think about it, most of the damage that he does is with his lead hand. The way that he annihilated David Avanesian, right hand. The way that he hurt Majimov to the body and to the head in the second half of the fight, lead hand. The way that he dropped Spence in that first knockdown, lead hand with the 2-1. The second knockdown, the third knockdown with the check hook, the knockdown that sent him flying to the ropes. The list goes on and on and on when it comes to proving that Terence Crawford's power hand is his lead hand, and this is what makes Terence Crawford so respected in the southpaw stance. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, if you go back and watch all of his fights, when he is in the southpaw stance, he likes to discipline you with a few shots. First of all, the stab to the body, devastating shot. I mean, he hurt Errol Spence with a jab to the body. The jab to the head and the check hook. When you come in, he disciplines you with that devastating check hook. Stops you in your tracks. And the lead and back uppercuts to the body from the southpaw stance. And if you actually think about it, I posted a video about this yesterday. When you talk about Terence Crawford's most lethal shots, they're not his overhands, they're not his 1-2s, they're not his straight shots or hooks. They are his uppercuts, ladies and gentlemen. Dropped Sean Porter with the uppercut. Hurt David Avanesian and put him to sleep with an uppercut. Uppercut check hook combination. Dropped Errol Spence with the shortest uppercut you will ever see on the ropes in that second knockdown with the uppercut. If you actually go back and watch the Majimov fight, I mean, every time he was unloading with those short, violent uppercuts, and Crawford doesn't just throw uppercuts when he's standing still. He proved in the Majima fight that he actually throws uppercuts on the move, which makes him even more dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, Eddy Reynoso did get it correctly halfway when describing Terence Crawford, but make no mistake, when Terence Crawford is in the southpaw stance, the man doesn't look to end you, or the man doesn't look to punish you with his backhand. No, ladies and gentlemen, the man actually looks to annihilate you with his lead hand. And that is why it is so hard to prepare for Terence Crawford. Now, if you actually look at his punch arsenal, let's talk about his best punches in both stances. Like I said, in the southpaw stance, jab to the body, jab to the head, a check hook, devastating check hook, and the lead uppercut. But when you actually talk about him in the orthodox stance, his deadly punches are the overhand right. If you go back to his career when he had dreads, I mean, he scored his most violent knockout ever with an overhand right. I mean, it was absolutely disgusting. I believe he won knockout of the year with that knockout. He was a young Bud Crawford. And his other devastating punch is his uppercut from the backhand in the orthodox stance. So all I'm saying is this, ladies and gentlemen, even when Terence Crawford is in the orthodox stance, he always looks to punish you with the right hand, which will be the backhand in the orthodox stance. You get what I mean? What I mean is this. When Terence Crawford is in the southpaw stance or orthodox stance, it's not just about him ending you or punishing you or trying to hurt you with the backhand, just like most fighters. No. It's all about his positioning and the opportunities that he sees. For example, you see him dropping people with the 2-1 like Spence. I mean, the way that Spence leaned with the jab to the body and the way that he pulled back, Crawford's backhand wasn't too available for him to clock Spence with it. But what was available was his lead hand. And that is why he feinted the 2 and came back with the 1 and dropped Spence. Why did he drop Spence? Because that shot was so unpredictable, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what Crawford does. And Canelo does that too. Both of them are always standing in the correct position to be able to land power shots from both hands and to be able to, most importantly, absorb power shots. Now that is why we have never really seen Terence Crawford or Canelo Alvarez down. I mean, you can make a case that Mean Machine dropped him, and you can make a case that the ropes kept Canelo up versus the young Cotto in Canelo's debut, US debut, when he was 19 years old. But you're talking about one instance in their entire career. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? That shows elite defense and, most importantly, elite chin, ladies and gentlemen, and elite awareness and IQ inside the ring. If both of them, let's just say that both of them been dropped once in their career, even though on paper both of them have never been dropped. But that is crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Crawford, 40 fights, Canelo over 70 fights, and both of them officially never been down. Now, like I said, you can make the case that Mean Machine did drop Crawford, and you can make the case that the ropes did keep Canelo up in his US debut. But still, that is absolutely insane. Look at the standard that we're holding both men in, that we're talking about small instances in a career, in 2 careers that last over a decade, ladies and gentlemen. And Canelo is nearing 2 decades as a professional. The man, I believe, became pro at 15, 16 years old. So nearly 20 years now, and the man's never been dropped. And Terence Crawford is one of the greatest fighters of all time, one of the most skilled fighters of all time. And the man, you can also say the man has only been like in a bad situation where you can arguably say that he was dropped 1 time. Versus Mean Machine, a man who also hurt Virgil Ortiz, a man who Virgil Ortiz said, out of all the men he sparred and fought, Mean Machine is one of the most violent and disgusting punchers ever. And even you can hear it in the man's shots. So all I gotta say is this. Yes, Eddy Reynoso, you got it correctly. Terence Crawford is a switch hitter. Terence Crawford does start to become an offensive juggernaut when he gets you hurt and when he establishes his range. But make no mistake, Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, Terence Crawford can be many things, but one thing he is not is your typical left-handed southpaw.